Hi, it's Coach MK. Let me shut this door. It's going to be a loud day. It's one of those Downton Abbey days. I've had a really awesome morning, and I have free time, and I almost don't know what to do with it because I've got a sitter downstairs. I mean, I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. Right, don't come at me. But I've got a sitter downstairs watching the baby, and I've got then the cleaning ladies here, and it feels like Downton Abbey. Yay! But fuck if I'm going to spend my free time cleaning. Yeah, that's right. So I wanted to do two things really quickly. One, I wanted to talk about what an amazing run I had this morning. And if you look at it on Strava, on my Strava, strava.com, if you don't use it, you should. It's a really great, it's like Facebook only without, it's just workouts. And you can give each other high fives and whatnot. I don't use it as often as I should. Everything automatically pushes there. But for the past 2 years, I really haven't had anything to say. It's the most difficult part of all the rehab is not knowing at any given moment, I'm not where I want to be. And the way I know most of you guys look at it is you're very data driven. You're very goal oriented. You're very like, well, I need to know, okay, the goalpost is here. How far am I from the goalpost? And am I getting closer? When it comes to rehab, these are questions you can't really answer. This is, even for someone that loves data, like I can be zen about this because I know that the data's only, the story isn't the data, it's in the space between the data, and no two people are going to look at that space and see the same thing. That's where the analysis really comes in. What are the numbers telling you? What are they not? So I had huge swathes, big long periods of time where nothing was moving and nothing was changing and nothing was getting different. I was doing all the work and not seeing the results. And it would have been really easy to say, to give up and say it's not worth it. But that's not what I did. So you might have seen some runs. There was a period after I discovered CBD and THC in amounts that don't get you high as the miracle drug that cured the pain that I was having and all the inflammation in my shoulder that allowed the joint to heal and allowed my arm to come back together. So yay, I'm all about legalizing that stuff now. I'm like, thank God I went to the weed store instead of filling that prescription for an opioid. I shudder to think where I would be right now. But all that aside, you might have seen after I got the pain under control, I started running again, and I was planning on participating in the November New York City Marathon. I decided around mid-September that I would not have the day that I wanted to have, and made peace with my decision to withdraw, and which allows me to defer to this year, to this November. And that's hard, right? That was a hard thing to do, knowing I'm being watched by people who could use that against me, right? Well, if your program doesn't work for you, how's it going to work for me? And which is a stupid thing to say. I can't even respond to that. It's so stupid. But it's still like every time I don't show up and don't race, I know I'm opening myself up for that conversation. By the way, my method of running, jogging is not what caused my terrible pregnancy, the SI joint pain, the dislocated shoulder, and the bulging disc in my cervical spine. That had nothing to do with the training plan. So, not running New York was a wise decision, and I stand by it. But and the reason that I made that choice was I looked back after some long runs and was like, you know what? I'm not fit enough. I haven't been doing this long enough. I don't have enough muscles. My joints are not where they would want to be. And I have not had a single good run. Not just a good long run. I haven't had a good run. I don't feel like me. I don't want to go to my favorite race in the whole wide world to do this thing that I've been doing at a level that makes me happy, realistically, for at least 20 years. To go there and have a bad experience trying to force a good thing to happen because I need it. And instead I went and I had a great time. And I rehired my coach, Tia Aceta of Run Tucson. I rehired her around, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I think we were connected. And I was like, I feel good. I've had one good solid week of running. I'm ready to go. I'm not ready to hit it with a hammer, but I'm ready to start easing my way back in. And let's just see how fast, let's do the same thing we did before. I know I'm not where I want to be. Let's see how fast I can get between now and November. And if I don't run a single race in between, I'm okay with that. I just need that one to be good. Or to be the best it can be, whatever that is. I notice I haven't touched a time to it because I can't. It's too far out. I have no idea what I'm capable of right now, and all I know is I'm not really strong enough mentally or physically to test it. It would not, what good could possibly come from it? Nothing. So why that matters is that this morning I had my first really good run in 2 years, and if you look at it on my Strava, it's nothing impressive. It's like 3.86 miles in 45 minutes. But what you might not notice, because everyone's looking at distance and time, or the pretty picture I posted of Carla. Carla reached out yesterday to let me know that she was coming to town. She's only here for a night, and was asking where she should run and was this part of town safe. And I was like, I was absurdly excited to hear from her. I'm like, you know what? Don't run there. City Park is terrible. And it really is. I hate City Park. I'm like, take an Uber to me. I will get out of bed and let's go. My sitter's there at 6 and we'll just take right off. And we did. It worked out beautifully. I was up at 5:52. I got out of bed, threw my clothes on, ran downstairs. Not gonna lie. I snoozed several times because Cheyenne slept with me last night and we were snuggling. But I got up and I got dressed and I adulted and I went out the door with her at 6 a.m. Why is this a big deal? We had a snowstorm on Monday. We got like 1.5 feet of snow in 90 minutes and another foot accumulation over the next 5 hours. The city wasn't ready for it because it started at 7 a.m. We still have a lot of snow and ice around. It's kind of messy. And it's been warmer for the past 2 days, so a lot of the ice and the snow has melted, but there's still big icy patches. So, and I haven't really been fit enough or motivated enough to go outside and try to run in the icy patches at 6 a.m. in 18-degree weather. But Carla being there kind of changed the game, knowing that she only had a short window of time, a very small window of time that I could work with. It's like, get your ass up or you don't get to run with her. And I did that. And that was such a big deal. And Carla is really fast and really efficient. Like at her 140 pace is like at 8:20 when I was coaching her 2 years ago. It's absurd. So I'm like, a little nervous. Are you going to mind slowing down to run with me? I'm doing like almost 12-minute miles on a good day and it's going to be really cold. But we had a great time and we talked nonstop and I didn't have to walk and I didn't have to. I felt strong and in control, and I knew my breathing felt strong. I didn't even have to look at my heart rate or my pace the whole way. We like, it was such a good run. And the best part is why I had nothing on the schedule today. Thursday's usually my given day off for my coach, because I train on the same schedule. I remember I preach what I practice, right? Thursday is an optional day and so is Sunday. And I opted to run today and I'm so glad I did. And it felt like a true easy effort recovery run. And it's the first one I've done with a friend. It's the first in 2 years. It's the first one I've done at 6 a.m. in 2 years. And it's the first run where I finished and I was like, if it wasn't cold and I didn't have things to do, I could totally keep going. Because in some of the others, my heart rate's been higher. I've been stressed. I've been taking, like, the past 2 days have been, not like pray for me personally rough. It's just been like Mercury's in retrograde. All the little bullshit, petty bullshit happening. That's thrown off the last 2 days and I haven't been in a great headspace. So the tide turned when I got that text from Carla that put me in a good headspace and things were good. And then I had such a great run this morning. And that's really important because I want to, that's the underscore support I want to make. Like, I finally had a good run. Finally. So, and I stopped running. I think my Strava says in June 2017 because I was just too sick and I was in a lot of pain. By then I was taking diclegus and the weight gain had started that crushed my SI joint. So yeah, June 2017 to January 2019. That's how long it's been since I had a good, strong run where I felt like myself again. So I tell you that to tell you this. All right, rehab takes a while. It is like any other goal, trying to if I had put a time limit on it, or like, and I get it, the way a lot of gurus and self-help people were like, a goal without a timeline is just a dream. And that's true. The timeline doesn't need to be on the accomplishment, though. It needs to be on initiating the process. I had a process, and I started that process right out the gate. I'm like, okay, now what do I do? When my arm was hurt, and when I was pregnant, I'm like, now what do I do? Pilates? Fuck Pilates. All right, I'm going to do all the Pilates 7 hours a week, 7 days a week. Then I had the baby. And this was dislocated, and I still can't run. I'm like, what can I do? All the Pilates and rehab throughout the day. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. And I just did the work and did the work and did the work, and I did not see tangible results from January, February of last year up until CBD happened. And then it was like I was here and then big bump and then plateau. And I've really been feeling like I've been in a plateau since October. And last week, I think I used this phrase in a Twitch. I was like, I feel like I've turned a corner. And the difference is this: the last few, I have been told by my care providers that I've turned several corners. I was just turning those corners so slowly, I didn't realize that was happening, right? It's like, this doesn't feel like a big change. They're like, just wait, when it all comes together, it'll feel like a whoosh. Well, I felt that whoosh last week. And then today being so effortless, looking and realizing I've run 20 miles this week. 20 miles. I've run 24.7 miles in the past 7 days. I have not done that in 2 years either. I didn't even notice. So things are coming together. Finally, I'm turning that corner. Like, I'm just shooting around it like that. If you've seen the movie The Martian, where Donald Glover gives the explanation of like, okay, well, here's what we can do. We can just like have this go around like slingshot. I feel like that's what I'm doing with the corner. I feel like I'm not just kind of like turning it like I would like I tell you guys it's going to happen in a race. I feel like I'm slingshotting all the way around that corner, and I'm just getting faster as I go. And it's a really cool feeling. But there's no plan I would have written that said, I must feel this in 18 months or I'm giving up. So I cannot tell you to stay in the game. I cannot tell you 18 months is a pretty good bar for whatever. And I also can't tell you what I would have done if this day hadn't come. If I hadn't seen glimpses of this day, I probably would have given up the work a long time ago. But what else was I going to do? Like, if doing nothing was not an option. Upping the ante was not an option. At every point, I just had to be like, okay, now what do I do? What more I'm willing to do more. I have bandwidth to do more. What more can I do? And just starting right there at that super pragmatic question and asking it and doing it every day. And I don't allow myself to think in those terms of, do I enjoy the work? Because I don't love Pilates. I don't. I never will. It's what I have to do. And I like the way it makes me feel. I like knowing that it makes me stronger, and I like knowing that it's added up to something. So I'm going to end on this and then move right into the part that I know my 3 days at the fair people are waiting for, where we're going to talk about knitting the ribs together. Super duper excited. But the point I wanted to make this morning, and what made me so excited, for the first time, I went into my own training peaks. I go in as a coach. I don't go in my athlete login. I finally logged in as an athlete on my computer, kind of like half hiding my face, because I know what those numbers mean. And I don't like to watch my own numbers. I like to pay someone else to do it, because it's just as easy for me to get lost in the weeds and wrapped around the axle as someone else. And that's what I'm paying my coach to do. So I go in on my computer, I kind of like half squint and look, and my eye was absolutely gobsmacked. My biggest complaint right now with my body is that I feel like after a year in bed, I lost a lot of muscle tone, I lost a lot of muscle strength, and I lost my ability to generate power. I don't feel powerful. When I jump, I don't work, even like twitch jumps, jumping rope, bouncing, high knees, you name it, all of them feel like, it just feels ridiculous. And so by knowing I've been afraid to look at my training peaks, because the two numbers that I'll look at first is the PA:HR, which is a proxy for how efficiently your muscles are working in an endurance event, broadly high levels generally speaking. And the other number I look at is the efficiency factor, which is a proxy for how efficiently your aerobic system was working. So it gives me an idea, like, okay, you're a super strong person and your muscular power forced your body through this workout, but you have no aerobic endurance. Or you have decades of aerobic endurance, but Jesus Christ, you're weak. Like, that was a really inefficient run. We can make this more efficient by focusing on strength. So those two numbers are not the be all end all, but they're a starting point. And it's the first two numbers I look at, and I trend with every athlete that I train. So I went in there and a good power figure, a good power figure where I'm like, okay, we can go get cleared by a PT, and let's make sure you're structurally sound enough to do things like hill bounding without getting hurt. A good number is 5%. Okay. when I ran a 342 in Philadelphia in 2016, my trending pace to heart rate number was a 1.4. Okay, which is fine. It's like, it's that there's no perfect number. It's just like being, I just want it to be under 5 and stay under 5% on every single run, on a tempo run, on hill bounding, everything I do. I need to make sure that I have enough power to do it, and that number needs to be under 5%. Okay. My number on my run this morning was a negative 6.7, which made me go like, what? And then I looked at my run yesterday, and it was a negative 9. And then I looked a negative. I've never seen that number before on me, much less on anybody else. So I kept going back through my runs for the past week, and all of them were in negative territory, even the ones that were hard or that felt hard to me. So I tell you that to tell you this: a year of something I didn't like has made me stronger than any athlete I've ever seen. Imagine what's going to happen when I start adding power back into the mix. I'm excited. So, but I didn't know that until I saw it in Training Peaks, right? It's not something I see. It's not something I feel. It's not something I experience. It's not like I finish that run and go like, I'm so strong. And this is why I don't talk about these numbers a lot with you guys, because it's a really tough thing to articulate. Like, this was better. How do you know it didn't feel better? I'm like, well, the numbers are here, and it was actually less effort. And you know what? Your aerobic system's doing the work, not your muscles. You've been powering through this, whatever. It's a different, so it's I've never seen numbers like that before. And I swear to you, a year in bed, all I've done is Pilates, lots and lots and lots of Pilates, right? So do the work, even if you hate it. 18 months of Pilates might make for the best running period I've ever had. I slipped back into a 24. Think about the last time you ramped up to 24 miles. How much time did it take? How did it feel? How tired were you? What condition were you in? I ran 25 miles in the last 7 days and did not notice it. And that is what we're going for in endurance events, is to make sure the running is effortless. Effort comes from elsewhere. There will be hard runs where you have to have effort, but a recovery run, an easy effort run, a long run, a run with a friend, those should feel like absolutely nothing, and we want to get you so strong that feels like nothing. And I am finally back there after 2 years. I'm stronger than I was before I got injured. So even though it sounds silly and Pollyanna-ish to be like, getting hurt is an opportunity, it really fucking was. It's not an opportunity a lot of people want to take. I certainly would not have elected to take 18 months out of my life to go fix a problem I didn't know I had. But man, I am stronger than I've ever been, and it's really cool. Imagine what will happen when I add power back in and I feel powerful. So that's what I really wanted to communicate. Today was a great day. I had the best run I've had in a really long time. And I am so grateful now that I didn't give up and that I did all the work. Okay. Especially the work I didn't want to do. I don't waste a lot of time thinking about it or talking about it, because it's just like the work don't need you to like it. And I beg you to think the same thing. The strength matters. Do the strength. Cut the run short and get the strength done no matter what. Do that strength every single day. I don't care if you like it, you need it. It gets you there faster. And then you're going to turn that corner like a spaceship. Like a spaceship in the Martian. I'm turning a corner that quickly. And as opposed to all the other ones that I didn't even notice. So there you go. If I can make one solid plea for you to do the work and say, hey, it pays off. You know, I'm not going to apologize for not having a video blog every day where it'd be like, I did the work again and nothing happened. I did the work again and nothing happened. Because you can't think that way. It's a cumulative thing, right? And you've just got to do it. And if you stick with it, it will pay off if you're doing the right work, if you're doing smart work, if you're not trying to impress people around you, or you know who you want to impress? Your physical therapist. You want to impress your physical therapist. Alex Lanton's consistently like, I tell people to go 5 days a week, hoping they'll go 3, and you go 8. And I'm like, yep, yay! So there you go. Final note, I'm still not strong enough. My spine is not strong enough yet for me to lift like a barbell. So once we've maxed out what I can do with my body's weight on a Pilates reformer that doesn't tax my joints, and that day might never come, and that's okay. I might never lift anything heavier than an 8-pound dumbbell again, and I'm okay with that. But once we've maxed all this out, we'll see what the next best step is for me. And there will be a point probably when I go back in the gym, possibly, but I'm not that worried about it. Getting there sooner isn't better, especially if it stresses my spine out. So, my comments, stream chat. Thank you. I'm glad you like the sweater. This is super old. This is from J. Crew, like circa, I don't know, the Obama administration. I got excited when I saw Michelle Obama had it too at some basketball game that she attended with the president. No, her heart rate was pretty low. It was really low. It was really low. And that was partially the cold. But thank you! Yay! I know, finally turning a corner and being aware that you've turned a corner. Because it's one thing for other people to tell you and you're like, I don't see it or feel it, but I see it and I feel it. Yay! They're so fun and sorry to watch. Thank you, Karen. Well, Training Peaks is when you care too much about something, you have to know it and be self-aware enough to back away from it. So someone that's too invested in pace needs to stop looking at pace. Someone that's too invested in being faster needs to say, you know what? More worry does not equate better performance. It's actually how I get in my own way, and I'm going to stop doing that. So I've had to stay out of my own way for a really long time. I took Training Peaks off my phone so I couldn't look at my own. And I re-downloaded it now. Yay! And logged back in. So, yeah. Totally. I know, Shara, I know you've had your road is so difficult. It's been really unfair. And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday. I was making a lot of phone calls. I'm about to make your February as soon as I finish this stream, take a shower. Your February is going up, and we're just going to do it my fucking way. Yay! Other things aren't working, so we're just going to go back to the MK plan. So I think the writer means too. You know, the little things add up. I say that and I say that and I say that. But it is like, I'd have no other way to prove it to you. I will post the screenshots to the Coach MK page in a little bit, and I'll show you. I'm going to go back and look, but I know I have another run on the same route, and it's just ridiculous to see. Like, roughly the same pace. And my EF figure, by the way, right now is in the toilet. I think it might have been like a 0.8 today, but my muscles are so strong, it pulled me through it. My foundation is so strong, it pulled my body through it, even though I have no endurance at the moment. Because, again, bed for a year and I haven't been doing long runs. We're about to start some longer runs, though. I did 80 minutes last weekend. Let's see what I do this weekend. Whoop, whoop. So in those moments when you want to give up, in those moments when you ask yourself, does this really matter? In those moments when you're like, I don't want to do this, I don't fucking care, and neither should you. Do you want to get where you want to go? Then do the work you need to do now, guys. Now. It adds up. And speaking of work, here we go. Let's talk about my abdominals and yours too. The other thing, if Susan allows me to, Susan, if you're here, that picture I put in the thread where I like circled the fact that you were unloaded, if you don't mind me sharing that, I would like to, because I've been trying to replicate that, and now that I've got this all working in concert, I can't. But if Susan's okay with me sharing it, I will. But, oh yeah, I always said plan girl. Sure. That's why you pay me the big bucks. If I go silent with you, it means I'm talking to somebody else. It doesn't mean you're far from my brain. It just means like, hold on. So here's what I want to say. And this is a comment a physical therapist made to me recently. Susan, if you watch this, go ahead and clip it here. We'll start the highlight for whatever we're going to call this. So I know that when I say lock the back, that's a difficult-ish cue. Like trying to raise your arms, you want your shoulders back, not exaggerated back. You don't want to be curving. You don't want to pull your shoulders so far back that your spine is curving. All we want to do is draw those shoulder blades together, right? And when that happens, your TVA down here in between, that muscle in between your hip bones, that locks automatically. It just turns on. We don't need it clenched because we don't need you bending forward, right? Again, we don't want the backward bend from this or the forward bend from thinking about that. So that forward bend is what got me in trouble. So what the Pilates studio that I go to, the owner is not my physical therapist. She is a physical therapist. and I like her a lot. Alex Lanton is my physical therapist, period. But, you know, he doesn't own a Pilates studio. So I go there, and I know that the people, that all of the instructors are under the supervision of a physical therapist at all times. So an offhand comment that one of them made that really perked my attention up was to a new student. And they talked about this, and I've been in Pilates now since my SI joints started going a little wonky. Let's say December 2016. I should have started sooner and just didn't. Because I didn't want to. Fuck Pilates. Who wants to be the Pilates doing minivan driving mom that like everyone made fun of in the movie Bad Moms? Not me. I'm Mila Kunis. I'm not Christina Applegate. Screw that. So I put it off. Asking, do I want to do this, and not rather, a medical professional has advised me to do this. So the comment that she made offhand, and something that they start drilling into you when you first show up in Pilates, is this whole idea of knitting your ribs together. Like, exhale, because all of us, like, when we hold our breath to make our waist smaller, this expands, and this doesn't actually get smaller, or we, like, flex the TVA, and notice what happens there. This bulges out. So it's really it's hard for me to replicate because I've been doing it correctly now for so long, and this is something I really couldn't do until after Violet was born, and then they were just like over and over and over again. Like, any class I went into, the instructor would stand next to me and like do this, standing over me. So I'm like lying down on a reformer, and they're over me pushing this together, like, focus, or then they would just put a hand here and press, knowing that the idea being that their hand, I needed to let go of the muscles so that their hand would be below my ribs. Like, ribs up here, hand down there, if that makes sense. So not like below this way, but below that way from lying down. You feel me? So sitting up, it's a harder thing to do. But when I talk about locking and loading, it makes all the difference in the world. I referenced it a while back, doing things like Russian twists. Like, a lot of people say, I can't touch the ground on either side for Russian twists. Well, if you're not loading the front, really loading that in, no wonder. It's because you've got that big expansion going on up here. We're going to try this one time from the side. That's kind of what it looks like. People are like, I'm holding it in. They're sucking it in, but then this bulges out at the top. So what we're trying to do with the load is like sitting up nice and tall, lock your cage, big exhale, and then keep pushing. Okay? Because it's not about sucking in, it's about pushing in with this muscle. Big deep breath, so it's just kind of like sitting. I know, right? It's a big difference when you're just sitting. Sitting, not thinking. Lock. Load. Okay. That is a big difference, right? So that's the difference between the Instagram models that look a little round and the ones that are like getting those angles and the lighting just right. So when you think about it here, if you think too much about bringing the bottom part of your rib cage together, the reason I don't say things like knit your ribs together, it makes sense when you're lying down. It's a lot harder. When you're sitting up, again, that's a cue that's going to make you bend forward. Like, I'm trying. Like me trying to make cleavage. I don't have any. Like, I'm trying. No. And they still don't touch because I have blinkers instead of headlights. Whatever. It is what it is. Don't try to make headlights out of blinkers with your ribs. That's not what we're here to do. All we're trying to do, because it's a narrowing of your waist as well. Notice here. For me, it's also the creation of a waist. So that's what I'm still working out, what cue is going to articulate that well. I just like locking and loading going together, because this is such a strong feeling when your back is locked and your front is loaded, and you're standing up straight, you're tall, your posture changes, everything sort of like fires, and it's a really neat place to be, and that's where I want you guys to be too. So the reason that this matters, and we really need to nail this cue, is that when all of this is working together, you're supported. So think of it like when you're going down, right? When you're going down to like do little pulses, This is doing nothing right now. It is possible to do this without using your glutes. It's also possible to do a full body exercise without using your cage. And then everything's just hanging there, right? So we want to like lock, load, then go down, and all of a sudden you're supported here, and this workout takes on a whole new meaning. And all of a sudden, so it takes a lot of strength, a lot of basic strength to build more strength. But this is where I think from forevermore, I'm going to make people start. Because this was something I could not do going into Philly, after Philly, before the baby. And it's all anyone in that studio has focused on with me after that baby. Because I did have a little diastasis, not a huge amount, like a fingertip. And it's completely gone now. Some of you might still have it. We can fix it. But it comes down to isolating these muscles here between your bra line and your belly button. So this is really locking your cage. We want that to be subtle. But loading the front is much more pronounced. So lock, load, don't bend forward. We'll talk about it more as we go. But the other cue that I've heard that I didn't hate was, think of it like wearing a corset. And if you're wearing a corset and you're trying to pull this together, notice how this turns inward. So until you've got control of this muscle and you can isolate it with your mind, and I promise you'll get there, it just really takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. And you have to think about it a lot. I still have to think about it, by the way, when I'm on the reformer, when I'm sitting down. When I sit down, it's like one of the first things I do, because when this is puffy, going back to that cue that I heard from, that I heard a long time ago, is that when what I heard that perked me up, is that if you see a bulge here, it means your back is unsupported. And if your back's unsupported, like that's a pretty good sign that the person with that bulge up here is going to have lower back issues or hip issues. And then when I went to Moab this past weekend with my runners who were doing the ultra that none of them trained for, I watched a lot of them holding their sides together, pressing their hips in, reaching over with their bellies pooched out, talking about how much their back hurt. Then I would press this in and say, how about now? They would straighten up a bit and be like, that's better. I'm like, good. Hold on to that. Have that fire. I want you to feel this every time you start to bend over, and use it to straighten up all the way up your back. And it was helpful. So I'm like, okay, so I haven't like finalized this or worked it out. Like I don't have it perfectly perfect yet. I'm going to keep refining and working on that cue. Lock the back, load the front. It's not like it's just an exhale. Exhale and hold. Exhale until everything's out of your lungs, and then push. And then once you're there, trying to like lock your cage and hold that, and then breathe. And hold that. So we're going to do more, and we're going to work on this, and we're going to make it a series, and it is something you need to practice every day. But it turns out that was why they had me doing Pilates 7 days a week, and I didn't know that. I had no idea. I've been doing this for a year, and I don't ask why. I just say, you want me to do it? Okay, I trust you. And I don't argue, because the why don't change shit. So, but that's what they wanted me to get out of it. They were like, yeah, this up here is going to support your back, of course. I'm like, okay. They were like, you didn't ask, and it's fair. But that 7 days of Pilates was all making sure that at least I got one session each day under the guise of a professional, making sure that I had this working so that my back, my bad back with stenosis and ankylosing and spondylitis is actually going to function for as long as possible. Then the front has to be twice as strong. So there you go. This matters. Let's focus on this for a bit, loading the front. Just do it while you sit, whatever it takes. It starts with a big exhale, exhale, and then trying to isolate those muscles. And that comes from wanting to try to make your ribs as small as possible. Instead of taking a deep breath to make your waist smaller, when you do that, your ribs separate. It's a big exhale to make them as small as possible so that you can get them to touch. Okay. Wearing the weight belt, it's going to put more strain on. So I'm not saying like you can't do it, Susan. I'm saying that it might make you more aware, because if you have that big weight belt on, it could be a good cue that makes you more conscious of trying to suck this in at the top. or trying to press this in at the top. Because remember, when you suck, it's like a balloon you're filling up, right? And that's not what we want. We want Southern Beauty Queen. Southern Beauty Queen standing sideways in a dress. The things you have to learn in fucking charm school. Yeah, I had to learn that shit too. How, like, when you stand in heels, you always want one foot in front, like a figure four in a ballerina. Stand up straight and tall. Exhale, turn sideways, and bend that knee. If a sequin dress, it cuts the line and makes your butt look smaller. All the things you have to learn in charm school. I think that needs to be the name of my comedy tour, Charm School Dropout. But there you go. That's what we're going. That's high level what we're going for. It's flattening this. And any Southern Beauty Queen knows it does not come from an inhale and holding your breath. It comes from an exhale and holding your breath. You know what? If that works and that helps press it in, that's fine. They actually have a corset in the studio. Like not the sexy kind, but it is one of those old school, like, up here presses this in, down corset, and like exhale, trying to put it on. And I've watched them struggle with a couple people with that now, enough that was kind of what got it. So I don't know, maybe take a dress that's too small and like try the exhale, trying to like pull it closed in the front, and that could replicate it really well too. We'll keep playing over time and try to figure it out. But yeah, it is a skill that takes a while to master. So and honestly, I don't really think it's sunk in until maybe November. So I've been going 7 days a week for well over a year by that point. Granted, I was pregnant through a lot of it, but I gave birth in January. So from January until November, that's 11 months before I was aware of, like, yes, I can do this. Oh, wait, I am doing it, and I'm not even thinking about it. And see, I'm doing it now when I'm leaning forward. And it's all, again, to support my back as I lean forward. It's a good habit. So yay for good decisions. Yay for good habits. I don't know if that helped at all, Susan, and 3 days at the fair people, but this loading thing is going to be more important as the closer we get to 3 days at the fair and the closer we get to the 50-mile mark. Oh, you have a corset? Pull it out. Pull it out. It doesn't really matter how small it is. It's not about wearing the corset. It's about trying to get it to close. Okay? And thinking about, how do I physically make my way smaller to get this corset on? And it doesn't come from inhaling. It comes from exhaling and pressing in. And we're not going to be doing that like you're wearing a corset while you're running, right? It's not about, when you get out there. It's just about pressing out, standing up straight, and making sure your spine is supported, especially when you start to get tired. So again, don't overachieve. This is not like when we do a bicep curl and you're holding something really heavy and you're struggling and you're straining. We don't need to do that while we breathe. And we don't need to do that while we run. Right? This isn't about struggling and straining. It's just about awareness in here, and something that's so strong, it locks without working. And locks is not the same as full flexion. Right? So if you catch yourself like pushing really hard, going all Hulk Hogan on it, you're not doing what we need to do. This isn't about going hard. It's about going smart, and smart is subtle. Smart is an hours of Pilates every day for 18 months not knowing what the fuck that's going to add up to, or why you're doing it. Or maybe that's stupid. I don't know. I'm leaning towards smart. So that's kind of, if you find yourself pushing for it, probably not doing what we need to do, right? So locking your cage is a super subtle move, and so is loading the front. But while we're learning how to load the front, it's going to feel a lot more forceful, because it's just like an extra exhale at the end of your exhale. Okay, go practice, go play. Let me know how that works. Give me feedback on that cue. Did it help? Did it not? If you have mastered it and can think of a better way to articulate it, let me know. I've been Googling like crazy. I've been asking every yoga and Pilates person I see for a better cue. And, you know, it's really hard if someone's not touching you and kind of pressing. But it also starts on the floor at a neutral position with your spine just off of it. And here's what I mean by that. When you're lying down on the floor in Pilates, when you're lying on the reformer in Pilates, right? This is neutral. Neutral, it's not an exaggerated
It's not a hyper curve, an intentional curve. A neutral spine just means my butt bone's touching the floor and my quads are turned on and I'm ready to push and my shoulders are touching the ground. That space underneath is how you know I'm in neutral. So most people come and they try to do this. They're like, and then they come and they push. Draw your belly button towards your spine without letting your back touch the floor. Because usually people come and they do this, and that's not what we want. We want to keep the back off the floor. Exhale, and when you exhale, this presses toward your spine and your back goes in too. So this is much more exaggerated than what you want to do, obviously, while you're running, but making that small. See how that kind of my rib cage goes from out to in. That's the knitting of the ribs. Knit them in and knit them together. So once again, I don't know if that's helpful. I'm just trying to make sure y'all feel coached and loved and have some idea of what I'm talking about because it's just hard. Yay! I'm going to take a shower.